Shadow Point is a puzzle game. The game begins with a short tutorial that covers the basics of how you can interact with objects in the world. You can pick up objects, rotate wheels, pull levers, and raise and lower chains. All of these actions feel great to perform and work exactly how they would in real life. You can free move or teleport, and you can play while stood or seated. I actually found playing while seated to be the better option, as when you stand, you will likely feel the urge to lean over tables to take a closer look at something. When you do this, sometimes you're hit by an invisible wall that makes your vision go black, so the restricted movement while seated prevented me from hitting an invisible wall and made the whole experience much more immersive. You can grab objects that are far away from you too, so your reach is not limited while seated. Your main aim in the game is to find a missing schoolgirl called Lorna McCabe, who suddenly disappeared 12 years ago while visiting Shadow Point Observatory. The observatory serves as the main hub world. Here you'll find portals that transport you to different stages in time. Each of these portals serve as the game's main levels, and each one has a few puzzles inside for you to complete. The impressive thing is that once you're in the observatory, the loading times are hidden from view. You pull a lever, wait a few seconds, and then the portal opens. You then simply step through it, and you're magically in a whole new place to explore. We have seen gameplay mechanics like these in standard games before, but nothing comes close to actually experiencing it in VR. Each level is split up into sections. In these parts are one or more puzzles to be solved. When you solve them, they activate a door and you can proceed to the next area. The puzzles revolve around you casting shadows onto walls. It's your job to find the correct object that will cast a shadow that fits into the outline on the wall. The controls are incredibly fluid when casting shadows, and it's a good thing too, because the shadow does need to line up perfectly with the outline. You really are in full control of the shadow's placement, which really allows you to completely focus on the position of the object in hand.
Did you know one of my first shows included shadow puppets?
Phew, I bet this game takes you back several years then.
Well, there's no need to be rude.
You can't actually grip an object wherever you want though. Instead, a few parts of it have grabbable places. This can make for some annoying moments, as you try to grip an object at the exact angle you want, although only a couple of the game's objects actually cause quite frustrating moments for me. Having these restrictions do come with a benefit too though, and that's if you do become stuck on a puzzle, you know that there isn't too many different angles on an object to try, so it becomes a process of elimination. You won't always have only one object at your disposal. When you find a new object in the world, it is automatically stored in your backpack for later use. Other than these key items that must be used in the shadow casting puzzles, there isn't really anything else you can actually pick up. Immersion wise, it is a bit of a letdown, especially when most VR games encourage random interaction, but on the other hand, it's understandable from a gameplay point of view, as if there's too many objects to pick up and cast shadows with, you could be stuck for quite long periods of time.
My shadow puppet shows lasted for 2 hours. They consisted of 72 hand variations, and the theatres was full up every time.
80 taken seats isn't anything to be proud of really.
The theatre could house 200, I'll have you know. How many subscribers do you have on this channel, may I ask?
Oh, shut up. To ensure that you're not stuck wondering what to do for long periods, the game does an amazing job at easing you into each of its new gameplay elements. You can pick up and carry light sources from one area to another. These sources come in the form of lanterns, which can be used to power up crystals, which activate things in the world. And bars don't allow objects to pass through them, so it's up to you to think of clever ways to transport the object from one place to another. But the most creative and visually fun puzzles are the ones that play with your virtual position in the world, such as a handheld mirror-shaped object that can make objects magically transform when they are behind it. And some puzzles have you manipulating gravity, which allows you to walk on walls and ceilings. The most incredible puzzle mechanic here though, which I'm sure everyone will remember this game for, is the one that allows you to view the area you're in both the present and past. The impressive thing is that you can stick your head through the device and you'll be instantly transported to that time. It's just so seamless, and is something that every VR owner should experience at some point. There is some other puzzle mechanics in the game too, but knowing how they work is often a puzzle in themselves, so I won't ruin them here. The music absolutely blends in with the gameplay so well. It's calm, relaxing, and it certainly gives the impression that you're playing a part in a fairy tale, and the visuals give off that impression too. Each area you explore isn't really massive, but it does ensure that each place has been given a lot of attention to detail, and it also allows you to really focus on each of the puzzle's layouts. The whole cast of voiceovers do a brilliant job here, and surprisingly, Sir Patrick Stewart actually narrates the story.
It began here, a gateway from the cellar to the stars, and when Lorna entered, it shattered, scattering fragments, constellations throughout the peak.
Oh, the absolutely delightful Sir Patrick Stewart. I've sent him invitations to a few of my tea parties.
Really? What's he like in real life?
Well, oddly, he never showed up.
I wonder why. The story really does drive the game forward, and although the characters you meet are of a cartoony nature, they do come across as quite believable people, and it is truly thanks to the excellent voiceovers. It took me just over 4 hours to beat the game. Each area has a few main puzzles that you must beat to progress through the game, and then there are an extra 1 or 2 tougher optional puzzles. In my playthrough, I had only missed one of the optional puzzles, so there isn't a whole lot of replayability here, although some of the gameplay mechanics are certainly worth showing to friends and family. This game is made by Coatsink Games, who also made the VR Esper series, and you can really see how far they have come with Shadow Point. They truly have perfected VR transitions from one area to another. I just wish we got to use that past and present gameplay mechanic more, because my mind was absolutely blown. One of the best things about VR is the fact that gamers can interact with games in new ways, and Shadow Point really does achieve that. All of the puzzles involve casting shadows, but this mechanic never outstays its welcome, thanks to new gameplay elements being added into the mix at an extremely good pace. The puzzles are pretty easy overall, but the game does get a bit tougher in its later stages, when it combines many of these elements into single puzzles. Looking back on the game, it's actually one of the best VR puzzle games I have ever played. The story had me intrigued throughout, and the puzzles kept me on my toes and amazed me along the way. Shadow Point Observatory is certainly worth visiting.
And Sir Patrick Stewart, you're always very welcome to visit me at my home. I would be delighted to show you the true shadow puppet art form.
Mr Oculus, with all due respect, stop harassing Sir Patrick Stewart!
Mr Oculus.